On this podcast, it's revealed. For the breakdown, let's ignite. Black and gold, we're taking flight. Every story, every fight. For the breakdown, every night.
What's going on, Boiler Nation? It is Tuesday night. It's October 15th, 2024. Recording a little earlier on our Tuesday night than we normally do. And as you can see on the screen, co-host Evan Webb is not with me. He is by far the best looking host of the Boiler Breakdown we've ever had. It's my wife, Stephanie Lee. Steph, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. And
Now,
I would say I have to agree with your comment.
oh, so now you're just slandering Evan and I. That's not very nice. And Andrew, too. And all the guests we've ever had. That's not very nice, but welcome to the Boiler Breakdown and welcome to the world of podcasting. This is your first podcast you've ever been on.
Yes, it is.
I've been trying to get you on a podcast since I host 3 of them for 3 or 4 years now, and here you are.
Here I am. And the earlier time is because my bedtime is at 8:39.
Yes, it's very true. It's very true, and there's no lies detected there at all. But like I said, I've been trying to get you on this podcast for 3 years now, over 3 years now. And that's the amount of time you've been a Purdue fan because I've introduced you into the Purdue sports world, which I guess on the basketball front, you're welcome. And on the football front, I'm sorry. But in all honesty, you also have seen some good football years as well. 2021, Purdue went 9-4 with a bowl victory over Tennessee. In 2022, they made the Big Ten championship game, which we were at Lucas Oil in Indianapolis. So, I mean, it's just been this year and last year that were kind of rough. But basketball, heck, you've seen Purdue be one seed multiple times. You saw Purdue's first trip to the Final Four since 1980, their first trip to a championship game since 1969. So, I guess what's it been like becoming still kind of a freshly new Purdue fan?
I would say it's definitely been an experience. If anybody knows me, before meeting Tanner and realizing that sports was literally his life, I knew nothing about football, basketball, other than just like loving the atmosphere and being able to go to games and enjoy with friends. I just didn't really know the ins and outs. And I remember, I think a profound moment in our relationship was when we were watching Sunday Night Football and I said something about intentional grounding.
Yeah.
And Tanner was very, very proud because he spent a lot of time teaching me and helping me to understand. But of course, just being a part of Tanner and his family and now Purdue, of course, I've been able to learn and grow to learn the team.
Well, even some of your family attended Purdue and are big sports fans. Some of your family are season ticket holders for football. But like you said, now you have a lot of Purdue merch, almost as much as I do. You have a Purdue license plate now in the back of your car. So it's in your blood now too. So
yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I think some of the listeners and viewers might be interested in getting your opinion on this. At least I am. What's the happiest you've ever seen me during a Purdue sports game? Like what moment, and what's the maddest or saddest you've ever seen me?
Oh, man.
There's probably more mad and sad than there are happy moments.
I would say happy was definitely when we knew we were going to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Just being there in person. I'm pretty sure not only Tanner teared up, but I think
did. I'll admit it.
I heard that Evan teared up there.
I think Evan bawled. I don't think he teared up. I think he bawled like a baby, and he'll be the first to admit it.
I looked over and I think Eric, your dad, was crying.
Yeah.
Crying.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't even have the years of trauma that I
heartbreak, torture.
But I started tearing up just because it was so emotional. But I would have to say that was definitely the happiest.
Yeah.
The worst experience, I don't know. I feel like there's been a lot of them, especially in football. I think that you were really upset last weekend.
I was.
But I think that same level of emotion has carried through a lot of games, to be honest.
I was thinking it was either the St. Peter's Sweet 16 exit with Jaden Ivey, Travion Williams, and those guys,
Yeah.
because I think that was the first time you kind of saw me sit in silence after a game, or the following year when we got beat by Fairleigh Dickinson, FDU, as a 1 seed in the first round. It's probably one of those two.
Yeah. And I would say on both of those, Elway was over in the corner,
That's our dog, by the
terrified.
way.
Yes, Elway,
Yep.
our corgi Australian Shepherd mix. He was
Yep.
terrified because there's pacing and
Yep.
there's
Oh yeah.
yelling and
Yep.
all the emotions.
Yep.
Both.
Yep. For both Purdue and the Broncos on Sundays. So, but yeah, you've come a long way in your sports fandom in a short time. Like you said, you went from not really caring about sports to now knowing what intentional grounding is, knowing a majority of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and knowing all Purdue's basketball roster year in, year out, and a decent amount of their football roster as well. So,
Yep.
been pretty impressive.
Yep.
Pretty impressive.
A+.
But now that you're introduced to our wonderful audience out there, and thank you to everybody who's watching live on our Facebook page or YouTube channel, and please hit that like, subscribe, follow button if you haven't already at Boiler Break Pod on all social media platforms, and of course on YouTube as well. And if you're listening to this at a little later time on your favorite audio podcast platform, please hit that 5-star rating and review. Leave us a comment. Really would appreciate that. Let's talk about Saturday's game a little bit. Purdue traveled over to Champaign, take on Illinois in the battle for the Cannon. One, Purdue's had a lot of luck lately in the last 2 decades. I mean, Purdue went into Saturday's game winning 15 of the last 19 matchups, including the last 6 trips over there to Champaign. The last win Illinois had in this series in Champaign before Saturday was my freshman year in college. I was actually at that game in 2010 when Illinois beat Purdue 44-10. That was not a fun road trip over there. A bunch of us took a bus trip over there and sat way up high, and it was windy and cold, and wasn't a good day for Purdue that day. But it looked like it really wasn't going to be a good day for Purdue for a majority of the game, at least in the first half, so to speak. Purdue found themselves down 24-3 at halftime the other day, with quarterback Ryan Brown, the backup, starting, as it was announced. There was a rumor floating around there on Thursday last week, so it was 2 days after Evan and I recorded the Boiler Breakdown last week, that Hudson Card might not be available. And then it came out Friday that he was not going to be playing and that he has a concussion. It was in concussion protocol. So redshirt freshman Ryan Brown, who only had 2 quarters of action last year against Northwestern, was going to be the guy. And so didn't know what to expect out of him in his first start. And at the halfway point, he only had 9 passing yards at halftime. And like I said, Purdue was down 24-3. Things weren't going well at all. I'm thinking, here we go again. This is going to turn into at least a Wisconsin situation, if not a Notre Dame situation again. I think I even was calling for just everybody associated with the program to be fired, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, literally everybody to be fired.
I apologize to the equipment managers out there. You guys don't deserve to be fired. I know how that is. So that's excluding you guys. I think I was calling for everybody else to be fired. But and then it's just, I don't know what happened at halftime. If what switch was switched or pulled, or what button was pushed, or what speech Ryan Walters and company gave the team. But the team that came out in the second half for Purdue was totally different than the team in the first half. I mean, Purdue did give up a field goal in the third quarter. So at one time they found themselves down 27-3, 24 points. But then Purdue went on and put on an offensive clinic the second half, put up 17 points in the third quarter, 23 in the fourth, and found themselves going into overtime against Illinois. And Illinois actually ended up scoring the first play of overtime. But Purdue answered back a few plays later and scored. And instead of going for the extra point to take it in the double overtime, Ryan Walters called for a 2-point conversion. And unfortunately, as I titled this podcast, Purdue was 1 play short, losing 50-49. So the Cannon goes back to Illinois. But I was really proud of the fight Purdue showed in the second half. They could have just gave up and thrown the towel in like it looked like they had done on a few previous occasions this year. And kudos to Ryan Brown. I mean, he ended up with the day with 118 rushing yards, 297 passing yards. First Purdue quarterback to have over 200 passing yards and over 100 rushing yards in 50 years. He was 18 for 26 and with 3 touchdowns, along with the yardage, and he had a long completion of 62 yards. Also, besides Brown's running attack, Devin Mockbee had a good game. He had 11 carries for 102 yards and 1 touchdown. Reggie Love III against his old team had 3 carries for 16 yards. And Armand Branch, guy who's rare, I think he played against Indiana State and hadn't played since. 1 carry for 3 yards and a touchdown. He had the touchdown in overtime, so it was really cool. Ryan Walters using some guys, a little bit of everybody, even some guys who hadn't played much. And I say Ryan Walters because, and we didn't know this till the game started, Ryan Walters called the offense on Saturday. So this is your head coach who's a defensive-minded coach taking over the controls of the offense. And he said on Monday on his weekly press conference with the media, they asked him, when did you decide to take over the offense? He said at 2:30 in the morning on Thursday. So you're in the business world. So Ryan Walters is kind of like the CEO of Purdue football.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, he made a decision, okay, things are going bad. I got to just take ownership, take control. I don't think there's many head coaches that would have done that. And really, I mean, say what you want about the guy as a head coach, but that's pretty impressive to be able to learn the offense and all the verbiage and vocab and everything in 2 weeks to be able to call plays.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you know from his background, has he done that before?
Well, he was a quarterback in high school and was recruited at the University of Colorado to be a quarterback. And then they switched him to defensive back. So he played defensive back in college. And then ever since he's been a coach, he's been on the defensive side of the ball. So, I mean, he knew how to call plays from how to spit out the plays, I should say, from being a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as my knowledge, I don't think he'd ever called a offensive game plan before. And what he did on Saturday was pretty impressive. I mean, Purdue was running some formations and some schemes, using some personnel, like I said, that we hadn't seen not only this year, some of last year. Now, we'll see the rest of the season because he said he's going to continue to call in the plays as long as that gives the team the best chance to win. Now we'll see was that just a flash in the pan this past week of him just knowing Illinois' scheme and personnel so much, or so well, I should say, from being there? And was it also a combination of teams not really having tape on Ryan Brown, saying that he only had 2 quarters of experience last year? Or was it a sign of things to come? I don't really know. We got some comments here from Ted Berkey on YouTube. Can Walters clone himself? Every time he takes over calling plays, things get better on either offense or defense. Yeah, I'm sure. I wish he could clone himself because I agree with you there, Ted. That's one thing he did also say in his press conference is ever since the team let Graham Harrell go after the Nebraska game, Jason Simmons took over the offense. Now Ryan Walters has taken over the offense with Simmons' input. He was calling the defensive plays, but gave the defensive plays up to defense coordinator Kevin Kane. So, and I guess as good as the offense played Saturday, the defense still tons of room for improvement. You score 49 points in a football game. I don't care what level it is. Pee-wee football, middle school, high school, college, professional. You score 49 points, that should be enough to get a win. And it wasn't because Purdue gave up 50 points. That's the third time. So we've played 6 games. Purdue's 1-5. That's the third time Purdue gave up at least 50 points this season. That's not good.
So why do you think our defense seemed to not be like? Do you think there was too much then focus because he shifted his focus maybe too much?
Well, and what I liked about the defense, even though they gave up 50 points, and Luke Altmaier is a hell of a quarterback, Illinois' quarterback. He's got to be a pro. He's the best Illinois quarterback I've seen in a long time. I mean, he credit to him, he made some big-time plays. Even though Purdue's defense gave up 50 points, I was happy with the style they were playing with. I thought they were aggressive. They tackled better than they had been. They just seemed to have some pep in their step a little bit. Maybe that was because they were actually still in the game, and as the second half drew on, and they even got the lead late there with 46 seconds left, which then the defense let Illinois get in the field goal range, and we'll get to talking about that drive here in a little bit. But I mean, looking at the defensive stats, I mean, Purdue had 3 sacks on the day, 1 forced fumble, another forced fumble that they didn't call that we'll talk about here in a bit. No interceptions or anything like that, but I thought the defense, I mean, Kydron Jenkins was a monster. He had 1.5 sacks 8 tackles overall. Glad to see he's playing like his old self again after a slow start to the season. He's now leading the Big Ten in sacks. So I think it more comes down to Purdue just doesn't have the personnel on defense to be playing the scheme that Ryan Walters likes to play, the aggressive scheme, the man coverage. And that's, I guess, going to take time, but I don't know if he's going to have the time to see it through, because his career at Purdue probably hangs on the next 6 games and how competitive they are. I don't know if the wins and losses matter as much, because Purdue has a gauntlet of a schedule coming up. 3 of their next 6 games are against the number 2, 3, and 4 ranked teams in the country. Then your other ones, you got the number 16th ranked team. Another one's a road game, and another one's a home game against a Northwestern team that looked pretty damn good Friday night, beating Maryland 37-10. So I think it's more of a personnel scheme issue, but we'll see. I want to give a shout out to a couple of people who caught passes. Max Clare, tight end, keeps having a good season. He had 6 receptions for 133 yards. Jamal Edrin, 2 receptions, 51 yards and a touchdown. Jerron Tibbs, 4 receptions, 51 yards and a touchdown. Devin Mockabee, 3 receptions, 31 yards and a touchdown. And that one touchdown was the go-ahead touchdown. 46 seconds left, and Purdue went for 2. Jamal Edrin got that lead. Drew Bibber, 1 for 22. Reggie Love, the third, 2 for 9. So I really think it was Ryan Brown's running ability that opened things up for the offense, opened up the passing game a little bit. And we'll see if that continues Friday night against Oregon when the number 2 Ducks coming in hot off a 1-point win over Ohio State. So even though Illinois is ranked 22nd, they're 5-1. Playing against a 6-0 Oregon team is ranked number 2 in the country. It's got to be a whole different challenge. And there's a reason Purdue's 27.5-point underdogs. But before we close out, talk on the Illinois game, I did want to talk about, and you were paying attention at this point in the fourth quarter.
I paid attention the entire game.
Second half, which I don't blame you, because the first half was miserable to watch. I want to talk about this fumble, or so-called not called fumble, that when Purdue was up 3 and Illinois was driving, Kydron Jenkins, who actually had been called for targeting a few plays before that, but then where they reviewed his hit for targeting but ruled it wasn't targeting. Thank goodness, because he would have been thrown out of the game then and had to sit out first half of the Oregon game because of when it was called. Did you know that rule in college?
Mm-mm.
That the targeting, one-time target in college, you're out.
Right,
which
right.
NFL you get 2. But in college, if you do it in the first half of the game, you're just out for that game and you can play the next week. If you do it in the second half, you're out the remainder of that game plus the first half of the following game. Yanni Karlaftis last year in the IU game had one in the second half. So he was out that game. And then the first half of the Indiana State game to start this year, which kind of really stunk for him. So he just had to kind of sit in the locker room and wait until after halftime to start a season. But I don't agree with the college football targeting rule. I wish they'd go to the NFL, and I wish the NFL would adopt the college football defensive pass interference rule. I've said that for years, but they don't care what I think. Anyway, so it looked like Luke Altmaier fumbled, but in real time, the ref called him down, and the ref blew the whistle and stopped play, which was too bad, because I believe it was Antonio Stevens. I think that's who it was. Picked up the fumble. It was going to be a touchdown for Purdue.
Yeah.
And Purdue would have been up 10. Game was going to be over. Game would have been over if Purdue just got the fumble. So, but then it was close enough they review it. And it looked like to me, Luke Altmaier didn't have clear possession of the ball when his knee was on the ground. It was on his leg. His hand really wasn't on the ball. The commentators seemed to think it was going to be overturned to Purdue's ball. The crowd, and I've heard from multiple people on Knucklehead Central, which is the Gold and Black message board, said the Purdue fans were cheering when it was on the board. The team was jumping up and down sidelines. The Illinois crowd was stunned. Everybody thought it was going to be overturned. Nope. They said it was too close. There wasn't conclusive evidence. Call stands. And then a play or two later, I think it was like 3rd and 20, Purdue lets Illinois pick up the first down, and then they did hold them to field goal, which took the game into overtime. So that was a bummer. That was one thing I was afraid when Purdue scored. I'm like, they probably gave Illinois too much time. But when you're Purdue and you haven't scored a lot of points since the Indiana State game, you take touchdowns when you can get touchdowns. You're not going to worry about that. And the last thing I wanted to address was overtime. Of course, Illinois scores the first play, like we mentioned earlier. Then Purdue goes down, has a nice run by Devin Mockabee, then runs a beautiful play fake handoff to, I think it was Maccabee, then flipped it to Armand Branch for the reverse for the touchdown. And then Walters decided to go for 2 instead of the extra point, and Ryan Brown unfortunately got sacked, which young, inexperienced player, if you're getting pressured like that, you just got to throw it up. You got to give a guy a chance. Hopefully he can make a miracle catch, or maybe you get defense pass interference. You can't take a sack because it's a ball game. What did you think about going for 2 points instead of kicking the extra point?
It's hard because in the moment, you thought that it was a really, really bad decision.
Yeah, I did. And I was in the minority, and I'm still probably in the minority.
So for me, not really knowing better in that situation, I was kind of thinking the same as you, but after the fact, when thinking through it, I think it was probably the right call. Now that you've heard other people's opinions, clearly you were very passionate about it that day.
I was ticked off right after it happened.
You thought that it was definitely the wrong decision.
Yeah, I did.
How do you feel about it now?
I'm a conservative person, so I'm not going against my gut. I still would have kicked the extra point and win the double overtime. And I get it. Ryan Walters had been saying all game if it got to tie game, win overtime, he was going for 2. In these coaching staffs, there's a lot of pent up energy against each other. I mean, they used to coach for each other, with each other 2 years ago, and I think there's a lot of hard feelings there. Maybe that comes out to the media and the public more so down the road than we know, for whatever reason. But I get it. 1-4 on the road, and the traditional football saying is, if you're going to go for 2 in overtime, you do it on the road and not at home. Which I don't really know why, but it is what it is. But I still would have kicked the extra point to get in double overtime. And everybody that was, I was talking to it, I was the only one who would have kicked the extra point. Everybody's like, no, we couldn't stop them. My counterpoint was Illinois couldn't stop our offense either. I mean, look what Purdue put up in the second half, 46 points. And Purdue would have been getting the ball first in double overtime. Now, the overtime rules in college have changed the last few years. And first overtime, you can score, and then you can go for extra point or 2-point conversion. Double overtime, if you score, you have to go for 2 no matter what. If you go into triple overtime or on forward, it's 2-point conversions only, starting in triple overtime, which is really weird. It hasn't happened too many times, but it has. Illinois and Penn State went in 9 overtimes a few years ago, because literally you get one play. If you get it, you get 2 points. The other team gets one play. They get it, it's 2 points. It was back and forth. They couldn't stop each other.
I don't think that you would have survived that.
No, I was having a tough time breathing as it was.
You would have definitely had a heart attack.
Probably.
Before that was over.
Shout out to Purdue football for giving me a reason to care again on Saturday. I hadn't felt like that during a Purdue football game in 2 years. But once again, I would have kicked the extra point, taken the double overtime. I think Purdue could have scored first. Now, would they have got the 2-point conversion or not? I don't know. But either way, then maybe, I know you're having trouble stopping Illinois all day long, but maybe you luck into a turnover and you win the game. But that's a lot of ifs and buts. So
I have a question just because I don't know the answer.
I might not know the answer myself, but I'll try.
When was the last time we got an onside kick like that?
Well, I don't remember the last time Purdue's got an onside kick, and I've never seen them get an onside kick how they did kicking it down the middle. Usually an onside kick, you kick it to one side or the other, and to kick it down the middle and beat the kickoff team down there was pretty impressive, which I do have to take that in consideration, I guess, too. Purdue did get an onside kick, whereas I'm complaining about the fumble call not being reversed.
Yeah.
But good friend of the show, Thad Mooney on Facebook, said, good call, you got to go for the win. See, I know I'm in the minority, but I'm sticking to my guns. That's what I do in college football 25. If I'm going into overtime, I'm just kicking the extra point. But my red zone play calling is horrendous on that game. So, which produces horrendous at times too. Not Saturday. Saturday was fine, but I think the running abilities of Ryan Brown really helped. So, and speaking of Ryan Brown, Coach Ryan Walters on Monday said he will be starting again Friday night against Oregon. Status of Hudson Card's up in the air, unknown. I get the sense if Hudson's healthy, we might see both quarterbacks, but I don't know.
That would be interesting. And we have to tell everybody that before we started, I had to ask for a picture of what Ryan Brown looked like, just because I had to be able to know. Because, I mean, of course, when they're out on the field, you can't even see what
it's
they
more
look
difficult
like.
than basketball. Basketball, they're not wearing helmets or anything. So you're right. high school buddy of mine, part of the Rochester High School class of 2010, Nick Small said extra point. See, Nick, I know you're smart. Thad Mooney from Walter's standpoint on the season, last game of the year, Brent can't hold anything back now. You know what quote that movie's from?
I do not.
Waterboy.
Oh.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, because I think it's Dan Fouts and Brett Musburger, who were college football analysts at the time. They're calling that game at the end of the Waterboy, and Dan Fouts kept saying it. And finally, Brett Musburger went over and grabbed the mic and goes, "We know." Because he said that line like 3 times. Yeah. Yeah. See, Nick knew it was Waterboy. See? See? Yeah, classic movie. I haven't watched that for a while. Need to go
Yeah,
back and watch
apparently
it.
I need to watch it again.
Yeah, it is a classic. And Purdue's defense, like I was saying, did not play well. Luke Altmaier, heck of a quarterback, like I mentioned earlier. He's 20 for 34, 379 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But he killed Purdue on the ground, too, and he's not normally a great runner. 10 carries for 90 yards and a touchdown. Josh McCray had 16 carries, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. Only one receiver for Illinois went over 100 yards, but that was Pat Bryant, who went over 100 yards with 104 on 4 receptions and a touchdown. See, we're getting all the Waterboy lines now. Ted Berkey, oh no, we suck again. That was Rob Snyder in Waterboy, which that could be, Ted, you could comment with that quite a few times this season on this podcast with that. But all in all, it was a heartbreaking loss, just how it turned out. But if you would have told me at halftime that Purdue was going to tie it up and have a chance in overtime, I would have taken it. And I guess in hindsight, I wish they would have called that Amon Branch play call that they did when they got the touchdown in overtime. I wish they would have saved that for the 2-point conversion call.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Because that was first down. If you don't get there, you still got a few more tries. But once again, Purdue can't get greedy. This is an offense that has not been good. So you got to take your touchdowns and your points when you can get them. So we will move on from the Illinois game now and look at Purdue's opponent Friday night, the number 2 ranked Oregon Ducks from Eugene, Oregon, coming into Ross-Ade Stadium. This isn't the first time these two teams have matched up. It is the first time as conference foes. This is Oregon's first year in the Big Ten, which is still weird to say and think about and all that. This is going to be the 4th meeting all time between the two schools. Purdue won the first meeting in 1979. It was in West Lafayette by a score of 13-7. And then I remember the next two very clearly. They played in Ross-Ade in 2008, and head coach Joe Tiller's last season, lost a heartbreaker in double overtime, 32-26. Remember, Purdue running back Corey Sheets took a run to the house, 80 yards in Purdue's first series, and that stadium was literally shaking that day on ABC. And then the following year, they went out to Oregon and Danny Hope's first year in 2009 and lost a heartbreaker 38-36 that saw Purdue up 14 at one point in that game. And Purdue actually caught the 2-point conversion to tie the game, but the Oregon player forced the Purdue player out in the air and he couldn't get a foot down. And that rule had changed that year because before then, if that happened, it still counted even though they didn't get a foot down because the defender forced them out in the air.
Oh.
It was a weird rule, but then they changed it to make sense like we know it now. So what I'm trying to say is Oregon and Purdue have been in 3 games. They've all been decided by single digits. I would take that right now. If you told me Purdue was only going to lose by single digits or be in the game, I'd take it right now because Purdue's 27.5-point underdogs. I would take a 20-point loss right now just to be competitive. Just show some fight and be competitive. That's what I want to see. Because, like I said, Oregon started off the year playing with their food a little bit, scraping by Idaho and Boise State, even though Boise State has one of the best players in the country, if not the best player in the country, the running back. But since then, they've been smacking opponents around. Now they beat Ohio State by a point, but Ohio State's pretty darn good. But Dylan Gabriel, he's up for the Heisman Trophy right now, their quarterback. He's completed 153 passes on 201 attempts for 1,790 yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I actually have, the little I've watched Oregon, I've seen all 3 of his interceptions, and they've all 3 come in the red zone. So that's one thing to keep an eye out.
Yeah.
Running game, Jordan James, 111 carries on the year for 667 yards, 40 and 6 touchdowns, his longest of 41 yards. Noah Whittington, 45 carries for 172 and a touchdown. And Dylan Gabriel himself, the quarterback, has 28 carries for 103 yards and 4 touchdowns. Tez Johnson, the speedy wide receiver, leads the way with 50 receptions, 470 yards, 6 touchdowns. Evan Stewart has 3 touchdowns. and Trayshawn Holden has 3 touchdowns. And Jaden Lamar, running back, has 1 touchdown. So I don't think any of their tight ends have receiving touchdowns. Something to keep an eye on. Brandon Miller on YouTube. Remember when Purdue's kicker slipped on second half kickoff at Northwestern maybe 3 or 4 years ago? They recovered that one accidentally. Yes, great point, Brandon. I forgot about that. I think that is the last time Purdue recovered an onside kick. Purdue's kicker was trying to kick a kickoff, and he slipped, and he kicked it, and it ended up being pretty much like an onside kick, and Purdue's guys beat Northwestern's there to get the ball.
Oh, okay.
I had forgotten about that.
Well, maybe that's a strategy.
Well, speaking of Oregon, and I told you about this the other night, Oregon's kicker, I still don't know if it's accidental or not. He kicked one against Ohio State that was a low-line drive and hit the second row, one of the players on Ohio State's second row, and Oregon recovered. And it looks like it was planned to me because all other 10 guys besides the kicker were funneling that direction. So,
yeah.
Take it for what it's worth. Nick Small on Facebook talking about the Oregon game might be a 40-point loss, to be honest. Oh, I could see it, Nick. I could see it. That wouldn't shock me. I mean, Purdue's lost 66-7 to Notre Dame and 52-6 to Wisconsin, and Oregon's better than Notre Dame and Wisconsin, in my opinion. Even though Notre Dame's played well since that Northern Illinois loss, and in Wisconsin thrashed Rutgers 42-7 the other day, so maybe they're starting to wake up. Looking at Oregon's defense, I was noticing this today when I looked up. They do have 17 sacks on the season compared to Purdue's defense, which is not terrible. Purdue's defense has 14 sacks. I'm not sure how many sacks Purdue's offense has given up, but it's quite a few. So that's something to keep an eye on. Oregon has 4 interceptions, whereas Purdue's defense only has 2 interceptions on the season. So what I'm trying to say is Purdue's got to have their work cut out for them big time Friday night against the Ducks. One thing we do, we predict the score of the game towards the end of the show. But one thing Evan and I do, Steph, every week is we do give one spicy, bold prediction for this week's game. So what's your one spicy, bold prediction for the Purdue-Oregon game?
It has to be spicy. What does spicy mean?
Hey, it can be defined. I don't know why we call it spicy bold prediction, but it can bold. Everybody can define bold differently. I mean, some like last week, for instance, our bold predictions were Evan said Purdue would score first, or no, he would score a first quarter touchdown. He was wrong. They haven't scored a first quarter touchdown since Indiana State. I said Purdue would get a defensive touchdown, and they did. Will Helt got a scoop and score fumble.
Okay.
So it could be.
I think this might actually be spicy. My spicy prediction is going to be that we are only going to lose by less than, no, I will say 10 or less.
10 or less.
That would be spicy, right?
That would be spicy. That would win and lose a lot of people money in Vegas because, like I said, as of now, Tuesday night when we're recording this, Oregon is a 27.5-point favorite. So if you can tell me right now, Purdue lose by 10 or less, where can I sign? Where can I sign? Sign me up right now. Sign me up right now. Patrick Kennedy on YouTube, if we could just play defense in all caps. Secondary is horrible. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I just don't think Purdue has the guys in the secondary to play the scheme Ryan Walters wants. And that's, fault of the coach with recruiting and portal additions. But I did think Brendan Thieneman had a good game on Saturday like he normally does. And I thought Nyland Green, for as much flack as I had been giving him for the penalties against Nebraska and Wisconsin, I thought he played better too on Saturday. But I'm right there with you, Patrick. The secondary's got to get better. You can't give up 50 points. And that's one more thing. I keep saying the last thing about the Illinois game. I keep forgetting things I want to say. Purdue put up 49 points against a pretty good defense. Illinois is not a bad defense. It's not a Purdue level defense. Illinois got a middle of the pack towards upper echelon of the pack in the Big Ten defense. So hopefully it can continue. But like I said, Oregon now has tape on Ryan Brown, and we'll see. And then their athletes are just a different caliber out there. And Dan Lanning, their coach, he knows Purdue's history of upsetting top 5 ranked teams at home, particularly at night. This game being on a Friday night, 8 o'clock Fox national game. He knows all that. He's too good of a coach not to have his team focused because we've seen in the past Ohio State's or Michigan State in 2021 come in when they were undefeated and overlook Purdue, and Purdue punch them in the mouth. So that's what Purdue has to do if they have any chance at upsetting Oregon. They have to punch them in the mouth and keep their foot on the gas all night long. Purdue's not the team that's gonna the announcers typically in these type of matchups, if they can just keep it one score, they got a chance. No. If Purdue's in a one-score game in the fourth quarter, they're not going to win. They're not going to make the plays they need to win.
So do you think even if we get down at all, do you think we stand a chance?
No.
So we have to stay ahead the whole game.
Yeah, I would say so. I realistically, for Purdue to have a fighting chance, not only do they need to get ahead, they probably need to get ahead by 14 to 17 points and see if they can hold on. But hopefully Ryan Brown brings the fire and the energy like he did Saturday. I mean, the kid was impressive, and I owe him an apology. I know earlier this year I said if Hudson Card ever went down, Purdue had no shot to win a game, and he played better Saturday than Hudson Card has to date. Now, I still think Hudson Card's a very talented quarterback. I liked what he did at Texas as their backup. I mean, when he came in, when Quinn Ewers got hurt a few years ago, he darn near beat Alabama by himself. I liked what he did towards the end of the year last year for Purdue, and there's been mainly just the Indiana State game this year. But I don't think he's had a ton of help around him, the offensive line and the receivers. A lot of times when he throws good balls, they don't catch them. But also he's been kind of scared to run, it seems like, whereas Ryan Brown's not scared. He doesn't hesitate. He goes for it. So
do you feel like Brown is just clicking?
I think the guys rallied around him. Knowing, okay, we got to pick the guy up. And Ryan Brown's a unique case. Not only is he a redshirt freshman, he's a 21-year-old redshirt freshman. That's really old. You're usually you're 21 as a junior, maybe a sophomore, but usually a junior. I mean, he's pretty old, so he's got some experience, just not tons of experience at this level. And I know Purdue fans love seeing a quarterback wear number 15. Or maybe they don't, because Drew Brees wore 15, and I know for a while people thought that number should be retired. But 15's been a great number for Purdue athletics. Drew Brees, and most recently in basketball, Zach Edey.
Yeah.
So it's been a fun number to watch. A big-time boiler on YouTube. Walter's calling offense truly remarkable. He's got to be an incredible Madden player. Oh, I agree 100%. 100%. I guarantee he plays a lot of Madden in college football 25 with his boys. Yeah, if you can call plays on offense as a defensive mind coach, you know what you're doing. And Big Time Bowler also says Ryan Brown has that it factor that's been missing. Certainly looked like it on Saturday. He had some stones. I mean, some of those passes he made, and that was my worry with him. I knew he could run from the sample size we saw last year against Northwestern, those 2 quarters, but I didn't think he could pass as well as he did Saturday. So he truly showed me something. And even if Hudson was clearly healthy and ready to go Friday, I think he still had a ride with Ryan Brown at 105, right with the hot hand, and for the team's sake and the fans' sake, because that's the last thing you want to do at Ryan Walter's spot right now is do anything else to make the fans go against you. So, all right, before we predict the Oregon game, we're going to go around this. Evan and I go around the Big Ten, and we predict the games. So, there's no right or wrong answers. It's your predictions. We will start with a Saturday game. This is a noon game. You have 5-1 Nebraska at. This just makes me want to throw up.
Oh, no.
6-0, number 16, Indiana, who's a 6.5-point favorite. I mean, they're already bowl eligible. If Indiana wins this game, we're living in a world where Indiana football is 7-0.
So IU versus Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, Dylan Royale, who thinks he's Patrick Mahomes. Kid is good. He's very good as a freshman. But, yes, good memory there. Who are you taking?
I have to make sure our bias doesn't get in the way, but I'm gonna take Nebraska.
All right, good answer. I didn't want to have a talk with you after the podcast got off the air, but I'm actually taking Nebraska as well. I'm surprised Indiana's 6.5-point favorites. I thought that might be more of a Indiana 3-point favorite line, but we will see. Both teams coming off a bye, so it'll be interesting. Another noon game that'll be interesting is UCLA making a trip clear across the country from California to New Jersey to take on Rutgers, who's 4-2. UCLA is 1-5. Rutgers has back-to-back losses, but they're 4.5-point favorites.
I'm going to take Rutgers.
I'm taking Rutgers as well. I think that bounced back, but man, they did not look good against Wisconsin. Thad Mooney on Facebook. Phillips rocked the 15 well too. Yeah, Sean Phillips did for that 1 year, and Mike Phipps back in the day before Drew Brees. So, and Rob Henry after Drew Brees. So 15 has been a good number for Purdue football. And I'm sure I'm forgetting others that wore 15. Oh, Charlie Jones.
How did you forget Charlie Jones?
Chuck Sizzle as 1 year. He was pretty good too.
That was his logo, right?
Yeah, Chuck Sizzle. Yeah, how can I forget Charlie? So, Wisconsin 7-point favorites at Northwestern. 3-3.
Ooh.
Wisconsin's playing better, but Northwestern, like I said, just had a 27-point win against Maryland. Who you got?
That one's tough,
It is tough.
but I'm going to take Wisconsin.
I'm taking Wisconsin as well. Like I said, they're 4-2 and starting to look more like the Wisconsin we're used to. Should be a really good one here in Champaign. Number 24, Michigan, 4-2 at number 22, 5-1 Illinois. Michigan is a 3-point favorite on the road.
I'm going to take Illinois.
I'm going to take Michigan, so we're going to differ there. I think it'll be a good game. I could see it going either way. That's what I call a coin flip game. USC 3-3, not the year Lincoln Riley won it out there, but they are 7-point favorites across the country at Maryland, who is starting to struggle.
I'm going to have to say, let's go with Maryland.
I'm going with USC, so we're gonna differ there again. If Maryland wins that one, Lincoln Riley's in big trouble, I think, in USC. And then Iowa, who looked really good in a thrashing of Washington, they're 4-2. They're on the road at 3-3 Michigan State, and they're 6.5-point favorites.
Iowa.
I'm taking Iowa as well. And let's go around the top 25 just to see if there's any decent matchups to talk about here. All right, for the podcast sake, this is a good one. Number 6, 6-0 Miami, Florida, who's got the refs have helped them twice, in my opinion, this year. At 4-2 Louisville, headed by Jeff Brom, Purdue's old coach. Miami is 4.5-point favorites. I think the Cardinals and Jeff Brom pull off the upset, which he's always been good at in his career, getting top 10 teams, or does Miami keep their undefeated season going?
I'll say Miami.
Yeah, I'll take the Canes as well, even though it would not shock me by any bit. Number 12, Notre Dame, 5-1 at 5-2 Georgia Tech. Notre Dame's 11-point favorite. Even though they're at Georgia Tech, they're playing where the Atlanta Falcons play. So they're not playing at Georgia Tech Stadium for this one. Who do you like in this one?
I like Georgia Tech.
I'm actually going to take Notre Dame. So I was expecting you to take Notre Dame. I hope Georgia Tech wins, but Notre Dame's playing good football lately. Really good one here. Number 7, Alabama, who almost lost their second game in the row last weekend. At number 11, Tennessee. Both teams are 5-1. Alabama's a 3-point favorite.
I'm going to take Alabama.
I'm going to take Alabama as well. Game of the weekend, number 5, Georgia, 5-1 at number 1, 6-0 Texas, who's a 3.5-point favorite.
Texas is?
Yes. Texas is number 1, Georgia's number 5. It's at Texas.
I'm going to take Texas.
I'm going to take Georgia. Just be different. So, and now we will get to the Purdue-Oregon game. Like I said, Friday night, 8 o'clock, under the lights. National game on Fox, not Fox Sports 1, Fox. Oregon, number 2, Oregon is 27.5-point favorites. Score prediction, which you already made your bold prediction. So now you got to back that up with a score prediction. It's not interfere with your bowl prediction.
Do you predict that this is going to be another record at-home loss?
No, I don't think it'll be as ugly as Notre Dame, even though they're better than Notre Dame. You want me to go first?
Sure.
I think Oregon wins 41-17.
41-17.
Yeah.
Well, I have to do 10 or less.
Yeah, you do.
Optimistically.
Yeah.
So why don't we... Can I just say 40 something to 30 something?
No. Nope. We got to get an actual score here.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Then I'll do 41-32.
All right. 9 points. All right. Hey, you never know. I'll take it. I'll take it right now.
If we lose by 10 or less, I want the credit for that.
Oh, you'll get the credit. Trust me. You'll get the credit. No doubt. One other thing about the Oregon game I want to pull up here is Purdue's wearing some alternate uniforms Friday night, some different uniforms we haven't seen them wear before. Now, I got to be honest, for all of us who play college football 25, these were leaked out in an update about a month ago, which I'm sure Purdue was not happy about. Because today was Purdue's first time releasing them to the public at all. and they were probably hoping that was going to be the first time the public saw them. But
Mhm.
for some reason, in the last game update, they popped in there. So people who played, we already know what they looked like, but still, I think they look pretty darn sharp. The biggest thing, of course, is a new helmet that Purdue's never worn. One side, for everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube, can check it out right here. For one side's got the Purdue script, which we've seen that on the basketball uniform, on the white ones,
Mhm.
the white home ones. That's the big thing. On the other side of the helmet, it's got number, so no motion P number. And it kind of like a few years ago for the Florida Atlantic homecoming game, Purdue did a Purdue Pete logo on one side and a number on the other side. The jerseys themselves have a little different look. There's no Purdue on the front. It's just a
Mhm.
motion piece, kind of like their old jerseys, really. That's what it looks like to me.
Mhm.
But on the back, it says Boilermakers instead of the player's name, I believe, or maybe it's just for that shot. It says Boilermakers. I'm not quite sure. But overall, as somebody who's a lot more into fashion than your husband is, what do you think of the uniforms? You like them?
I like them.
Yeah.
I like the all
Yeah.
blackout
It is a blackout
look. I
game,
just
so
I think it looks
yeah.
sharp. I think I like it.
It is a blackout game, and God knows what bright colors Oregon's going to wear. Probably white, but I mean, they, have the backing of Phil Knight, Nike CEO or Nike
Mhm.
founder, so they literally don't wear the same combination twice. They have like a million different combinations. They'll wear stuff to make your eyes bleed green and yellow so bright, but they'll wear gray and black and helmets of all different kinds. So it'll be interesting to see what they pull out too.
Yeah.
Friday night. It might be all black. It's all white. I don't know. I don't know. Thad Mooney, if we lose by 10 or less, Steph is the new co-host.
Yes.
People have spoken. Evan, your house. uh, but one thing I need to do before we wrap things up is I need to pay some bills. So I need to tell everybody who this podcast is brought to you by. And the first sponsor is, if I can bring the button up here, it's Mad Mushroom. Mad Mushroom's been a sponsor of the Boiler Breakdown now for 4 seasons, and we love having them on. I've never taken you there. I got to get you there next time we're down on campus.
I was just going to say that, but I did not want to offend our sponsor.
No, it's my fault.
You have not taken your wife.
It's my fault.
To your sponsor.
It's my fault. I need to do that because you haven't lived till you've had Mad Mushroom cheese sticks. I mean, all their food's good, but right here, I mean, they're known as the home of the original cheese sticks for a reason.
And I like cheese sticks. So
and you like cheese sticks, and you love yourself some ranch.
Yes,
they got really good ranch.
Is it the good homemade ranch?
Yeah, it's homemade ranch. I mean, you can get ranch, butter sauce, cheese sauce, all kinds of dipping sauces. You can put bacon on the cheese sticks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. There's multiple times in college cheese sticks were my dinner. So
I believe that.
Whenever Evan or Andrew or myself go, and Steph next time we're down there goes, we like to sit down and have an ice cold beer by trying out their latest pizza of the month, which their pizza of the month for October is the Oktoberfest. It's amber ale beer cheese topped with cup and char sausage, peppadew peppers, dill pickle slices, and mozzarella cheese. That's starting at a price of just $14. So any Boiler Breakdown listener or viewer, next time you're in town, stop in, tell them the Boiler Breakdown sent you for $5 off any order over $20. And you can do the same online by using the coupon code BREAK5. That's all caps, BREAK5. Claim your discount at madmushroom.com. It's Mad Mushroom. Feed your head. And once again, we are very happy that they sponsor the Boiler Breakdown podcast. And the other sponsor is The Shop. I'm wearing a shirt from the shop. Steph's got multiple shirts from the shop. I've got hats from the shop. We got all types of things. A lot of my Christmas usually comes from the shop, if I must say so myself.
Yes.
Or it seems to. Any Boiler Breakdown listener reviewer can use the promo code BREAKDOwn, all caps, for 25% off. And let me tell you a little bit about the shop here. They have 3 retail locations in the Indianapolis area. One's in Carmel, one's in Broad Ripple, and their newest one is downtown Indianapolis. The shop began in 2011. They bring us vintage-inspired sports, collegiate, and pop culture apparel made from high-quality materials. Like I said, based in Indianapolis, their dedicated team is here to serve you at the retail locations and their headquarters. They take a holistic approach to the design and manufacturing process to make sure that each item is not just a product, but a reflection of the person who owns it. And like I said, just looking at their website right here, I mean, no matter who you're a fan of in college, Ball State, Butler, DePaul, Indiana, Indiana State, IU Indianapolis, Ohio State, who they had this year, Purdue, Wabash, they got it for you. And then, I mean, athletes, you're a fan of Larry Bird, Gene Cady, Bob Knight, Razor Shines, the Indianapolis Indians legend. How about racing legends? AJ Foyt, Mario Andretti, Rick Mears, Connor Daly. They got merch for them. And, of course, events like the Brickyard 400, Fever Basketball, Caitlin Clark, Indianapolis Colts, Indiana Pacers, Cincinnati Reds. You name it, they got it. And also a lot of pop culture things around the state of Indiana. So we thank the shop for their support of the podcast as well. And use that coupon code breakdown for 25% off. Christmas is right around the corner. So literally we're like almost 2 months out for Christmas. So definitely not too early. I mean, my wife a few weeks ago told me, hey, if packages comes to the house and don't have your name on it, don't open it. So, okay. So he did threaten me with that.
That did not go as easy as you just said. You wanted to open it.
I always want to open it no, that's false. It depends where it comes from. But sometimes it comes from something I know it's for me, but it's got your name on it. So my mother-in-law and your mother with a comment. Two of her favorite people. So
thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, mother-in-law. So anything else, Steph, you'd like to talk about? Any Purdue basketball thoughts? You'd like to talk about seasons right around the corner?
I did have one more thing.
Okay.
Football related.
Okay, go for it.
How and someone that's close to you will appreciate this.
Uh-huh.
How did it feel to lose against one of your best friends' favorite team?
Oh.
Well, I guess favorite teams, but then also most hated team at the same time because he kind of loves Illinois and then hates Illinois.
Yeah, one of my best friends, Josh Munt, who I do the 10 J-Man Show podcast with every week. He's an Illini fan, absolutely loves Illini basketball. Says he doesn't like Illini football, but I don't know if I believe him. And he says at the start of the year, he said, okay, the win quota for Illinois to get me back on the bandwagon this year's 8. After Saturday's win, even though it was for a lot of Illinois fans, a stressful, shouldn't have been stressful, ugly win, but win's a win. Now he moved the quota since they got 5 wins. All of a sudden, it's 10. He moved the goalpost from 8 to 10. So no, I think that's part of the reason why I acted like I did Saturday, because if I had to rank my top 5 least favorite college football teams, Illinois right now would be 4th. I don't know who 5th would be. You know my top 3. You know my top 3 in order.
Football?
Yeah.
IU.
Number 2.
Notre Dame.
Number 1.
So Notre Dame, IU.
You know my 3rd ahead of Illinois. And when this guy eventually leaves that program, Illinois will go number 3. Who do I always complain about? It's always on TV commercials.
Oh, Colorado.
Deion Sanders and the Sanders boys. When he eventually leaves Colorado, I won't care about Colorado anymore, and Illinois will replace them as 3rd. But I don't know. My number 5 might be Wisconsin, just because they won 18 straight against Purdue, and they just put me in the pain of misery.
Yeah.
In basketball, though, it's Indiana number 1, Michigan State number 2, Illinois number 3. After that, I can probably name a handful of Big Ten teams. But
I am ready for basketball season.
Well, it's Purdue basketball released a 6-minute highlights of a scrimmage the other day, so that was really cool seeing all the guys do stuff. Brian Newbert, who writes for Golden Black Illustrated, he put out his kind of projected top 5 the other day, and it had Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, freshman Jakari Harris, who's the son of Glenn the Big Dog Robinson, Camden Heide, and Trey Kaufman-Renn as a starting 5 with Miles Colvin coming right off the bench. But a lot of depth and talent on the Purdue team this year. A lot of returning players from the national championship runner-up team, but also a lot of new faces too. Freshmen.
Were you surprised not to see Caleb first?
No.
In the lineup?
I was not. I'm not sure where he's going to fit in. I hope there's a role for him. I still think he's talented enough to have a role. That's the thing. Purdue's probably going to end up redshirting at least 2 of the freshmen. But, Jakari Harris sounds like he might start. CJ Cox sounds like he's shown enough. Daniel Jacobson's shown enough. They're going to be key players. So we will see. John Bauer, a.k.a. my buddy Pluggo, here on Facebook says, "Go Irish. We are ND." I can't even say anything to you, Pluggo. You guys beat us 66-7, so I can't say much.
What can you say to that?
But he does love himself some Tanner. So see,
Aw.
Pluggo, John's a great guy. So great guy. Go check out all the work he does on social media. You can follow him at Pluggo. Does a lot of things, especially in the pro wrestling world. He makes great content. He's part of a great pro wrestling show, Between Two Beards. They do awesome work. So go check him out. Give him a follow, give him a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. So, but yeah, basketball season. Purdue in the preseason poll came out, was ranked 14th, but the highest in the Big Ten. Second in the Big Ten was Indiana at 17th, and the only other Big Ten team ranked was Rutgers at 25. So now there's a lot of respect for the Big Ten right now in the basketball world. I think it's still going to be a pretty darn good conference. It's a weird 18-team conference now.
Is UConn still one?
No, they are – number one is Kansas.
Oh, okay.
Number two is Alabama, who Purdue hosts at home in November, which is going to be one of the craziest Mackey Arena environments I think ever. That game's on Peacock, a Friday night game on Peacock, which six of Purdue's games are on Peacock this year. I think Evan and I talked about that last week, that Purdue has a lot of Peacock and Fox games this year. Peacock knows what they're doing to get the subscription numbers up. Mm-hmm. They know what they're doing, but it's got to be a tough schedule for Purdue yet again in non-conference, but that makes it fun. And unlike football, where it doesn't really do you any good to schedule tough games in non-conference, basketball does, because it gets you prepared for conference season and then March Madness. But I think we're going to be good. I think we're going to be right up there in the mix for the Big Ten. I don't think we'll be as good as we were last year, but we lost the most dominant player college basketball seen in the last 20 years, Zach Edey, who had a heck of a game last night for the Grizzlies. Yeah, down in Indianapolis in the preseason. So he's going to be starting center for the Grizzlies. So it's going to be fun to watch him progress and see how he does this year. And the Grizzlies should be pretty good. But yeah, basketball season is going to be fun again. Purdue is I don't take it for granted that Purdue is good basketball almost year in, year out. And, Purdue's a culture that's had two head coaches in the last 40 plus years. That's pretty crazy. Whereas football's had, I don't even know how many in the last 40 plus years. Mm-hmm. Way too many for me to count tonight. So any final thoughts, Steph, as we wrap up this week's podcast and your podcasting debut?
I don't think so.
Think so?
What rating do I get for my husband?
What scale are we rating on? Are we doing a letter grade? Are we doing a 1 through 5? Are we doing a 1 through 10?
How about we do a letter grade?
I gotta give you an A+. You're my wife. You did a great job. No, you did a great job. You've been fun to talk to. Held your own. Didn't ask anything crazy, which there's no such thing as a dumb question. So
just wait till next time.
Just wait till next time. Yeah, we will have you back on. Maybe during basketball season. After a big game or two, we'll have you on.
Yes. I would love to talk about basketball.
All right. We'll make that happen. But as always, everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Boiler up, hammer down, and let's beat the Ducks.
Boiler up.